one-stop shop for great wrestling. It's the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Ray Russell brings a host of great shows right to your device. There's the Wrestling Memory Grenade, Regional Wrestling, The Wrestling Stoop with Bob Roop, The Amazing Puro Academy Show, Retro Wrestling Review with Gene Jackson, Dave Dynasty's long-running hit, Wrestling Nostalgia, Monday Warfare, Raw vs. Nitro, the hilarious Other Ship podcast, and a whole lot more. Great shows and great guests, but where do you find all this stuff? Really simple. Try logging on to WrestleCopia.com. As I like to say, it's your one-stop shop for great wrestling memories. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Outdated Wrestling Hour. On this edition, we welcome back. It's Lou, Big Lou. Lou Kipilman, of course. And we're going to talk about his favorite things. Yep, it's another episode where we look back with fondness and gratitude toward all the cool stuff we watched when we were younger. I'm still young. Here, watch me lift an entire case of Campbell's Bean with Bacon soup. Here we go. It's the Outdated Wrestling Hour. Lou's a wizard in the studio. Maybe he has some duct tape I can put on his cut. Welcome to the filthiest, raunchiest, gutter-level, unbelievable, low-end, low-rent podcast you'll ever hear, or at least according to some people. It's the Outdated Wrestling Hour, and I'll explain what I meant by all that. But first, welcome from Lost in Space. He's all grown up now, ready to talk to y'all. It's Bill Mummy. It's Joe Puccio, of course, being a goof. What are you doing here, Billy Mummy from, right? Lost in Space? Did I get that one?
Yeah. Wasn't he in the Twilight Zone? Like those Twilight Zone episodes?
You're bad. Wasn't where we pointed something, you're bad, they turned to stone?
Yeah, right. That's him. Yeah, no, the only reason why I thought of him is earlier today, I was scrolling the web and I saw that he's doing a concert or something, or he played music.
Turned into a musician of sorts. Yeah.
I had no idea, so yeah.
Yeah, I did. Who cares?
You're not a fan?
I will tell you something right now. If you're a movie star, like Bruce Willis and all these other people, if you say, I'm going to be a musician now, no, you're not. The only guy who ever pulled that off did it reverse. It was Chris Christopherson, who was a singer who became a movie star.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't mind that so much because he was good at both, but I don't know. These guys got all the money in the world and all of a sudden they're like musicians and stuff. Get out.
Do you remember when Eddie Murphy did his music in the 80s?
Oh, yeah. It was dreadful.
He had a big hit.
I know. Party all the time with Rick James producing. He can't sing.
No, I mean, that wasn't...
the song was actually a pretty good song that stuck in your head.
Yeah, it did.
What he needs, though, is to have you strip away, like they used to do with Linda McCartney, where they would strip away all of the instrumentals and you just hear the vocal.
Yeah.
Then you'll hear what Eddie Murphy sounds like. He reed thin singer. He's not a singer.
I have one more for you. What about Patrick Swayze? Do you remember his music? She's Like the Wind and all that.
Yeah, that really lovely. I never knew that was him. You'd hear that on the radio and stuff, and I just heard it and looked for another station, basically. But no, it was.
It's like the Dirty Dancing soundtrack.
I am not into adult contemporary. No,
Yeah.
I'm not into yacht rock. Oh God! And who came up with that terminology? And now they're throwing artists and calling them yacht rock. Steely Dan is yacht rock? What? Who?
Yeah.
Now, everybody likes to put a label on things. The only label you can put on me is fat. Anyway, We are now going to discuss something and a bunch of other stuff. We're just going to talk a few things before we get our guest, who, by the way, is Lou Kipilman, the wonderful sound engineer and producer, and I guess he's a mainstay at the Arcadian Vanguard Company, and he works on the Sick to Wrestling with John McAdam podcast, which sounds just like radio, which is the biggest compliment I can give anybody and stuff like that. But we're going to talk about something I just kind of found out messing around with my stuff. Like I'm trying out my new dongle I just bought here. I got new equipment. Joe always gets sick of me. Hey, Joe, I got new equipment. Who cares? Can we record? My dog has to pee. That's what he said. Anyway, I'm going through it and I go to Apple Podcasts just to look at it, because, when you go each of these sites, you see the write up for the show. Some of them have transcripts they put out. Like when you put this show on Spotify, you can read the transcript as you listen, which is a really cool thing. I don't know if you ever noticed that, even on your cell phone. Spotify actually, with all the flack they take for podcasts, I think it's not bad. They do a lot of features that a lot of the other apps don't do. In any event, I'm on Apple Podcasts, and I'm looking at everything. This looks good. That looks good. Oh, they never corrected. It still says comes out bi-weekly. That was my original schedule.
Right.
I corrected it with my host. They never updated
They never
it.
did.
Fine, no problem. But then I look, and I see the E. You know what E stands for?
Explicit?
And I'm like, who uses the buzzer more than I do? Who uses the censor buzzer more than this show does? I can't recall an F-bomb on the show ever. I know there was some couple of guys used the SH word. I'm not going to say it here. I try to keep the show cursing free.
Where does that rating come from? Where does that explicit come from?
Apparently, Apple's algorithms hear something in the show or read it in the transcript and say, oh, that's not good.
Huh.
Now, I'm wondering if, even though I use the censor, if you still can read it as opposed to, hearing it. And I honestly, do you ever recall hearing any cursing on the show? I try to get rid of it.
Not offhand, no.
Or maybe they're using those minor words I just mentioned as something they'd consider explicit. Like you have to practically be, Sunday Psalm at 8 a.m. on Channel 9, to not get the explicit thing. So I went and looked up a bunch of other wrestling podcasts. Now, of course, the Cornette podcasts get an explicit rating, right?
Right.
But I looked up Ray Russell's Wrestling Memory Grenade. That gets an explicit rating. I've never heard cursing on that show. Stick to Wrestling, John McAdam, also gets the explicit. Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon. Another E. I don't know.
Is there anything that doesn't get it?
I didn't go that far. When I stopped, I figured most wrestling podcasts get it. But you know what? It said in the explanation that I read that descriptions of violence also could be considered explicit. Like, oh, he ripped them open. Oh, man, he was blooded gusher. Maybe that's what it is.
No, that could be it. Maybe just talking about, in the context, obviously it's not it doesn't know that we're talking professional wrestling, but talking the context of, oh, this guy killed this guy, we talk about the syringe and spots and things like that,
Yeah. So maybe it's the violent content. And, that may disturb some people. I could see that.
Yeah.
I may not use the buzzer anymore. I'm not going to maybe not use it because it's like, we're already explicit. And there's one problem with being explicit in Apple is that some listeners can't add it to it or subscribe to it unless they've agreed to listen to explicit or something. There's some weird rule about it. I don't know. It's a confusing thing to me. I am not going to take it hard or I'm not going to write to them and go, why are we this? I just think that what is an explicit? I listen to a bunch of podcasts. Everybody's swearing. Have you noticed? Go to the generalism. Go to some of the ones that are about sports or just general talk or humor. Everybody's cursing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just hope that our listeners aren't offended. I just hope our regulars aren't offended. And speaking of our regular listeners, I want to thank you all. The week of May 18th on this podcast was the most successful week we've ever had by a wide margin. Super wide. It's the week of the 18th till I guess about Memorial Day and the day past that. We have never had more down. I mean, it just exploded at that time. So I want to thank everybody that was the week when we had two shows. We had a regular show and then they did a little thing about Bill Hickerson.
Mm-hmm.
And as many people listened to the little 20-minute show as listened to the regular show. When you added them together, it was a ton of downloads. So that's, it's our bread and butter. This is commerce. So I want to thank everybody for helping out and listening and being so loyal, particularly over Memorial Day weekend where everybody probably had a lot of stuff to do. So that's pretty cool. So thanks, listeners. We appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. That's fantastic. Especially like you said, during a holiday weekend, it's even more impressive because I'm sure people had things going on.
I would figure your listenership goes down when there's a holiday.
I would think the same thing.
You get families together and whatnot, and, you don't do your usual thing. That weird Monday that you're off, you usually will fill it with something fun.
Right.
Did you fill yours with something fun?
Uh,
Folks, he gave a look like, "Not really, and never." Were you working?
To be completely honest, I had to think about what we did. I was not working, which I do work some holidays, but this one I was luckily off. But I think it was pretty relaxing. That's but no, nothing to write home about. Pretty relaxing, pretty quiet, which I like.
Well, we went to a New York Mets game on Memorial Day, and the New York Mets this season are as thrilling as walking down the street and dropping your comb on the sidewalk. Not only do you have to bend down and pick it up, but you ruin the comb. It's dirty now. You have to throw it away. Basically, that's the entertainment you find at Citi Field in New York right now for the New York. It's the worst Mets team I've seen in years. It's so bad. It's like they look defeated walking onto the field. It's like stunning. Stunning. At least the pretzel I had was delicious.
That's a win.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
I haven't kept up with the standings as of late. Is it silly to ask if the Mets are in last place?
Yes, they are in last place as we record this, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, and they shall stay there. I'm confident that they will be a last place team this year. It reminds me of 1979 when the original owner of the Mets had died, and the team was kind of willed to the two daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't pump any money into the team, and they set an all-time low in attendance, and they were just dreadful, like last place every year. We're talking like 95 to 100 losses or something like this, really, really bad. So I'm wondering if they're going to be as bad as the 1979 team. I already wrote something about that on Facebook. I'm thinking they're going to be every bit as bad. They lost 99 games that year. So I'm thinking this team will lose 99 with ease. They'll cross the finish line on that one. It's just nothing's working. They got a bunch of veteran players, and they're not hitting. The pitchers who were supposed to be superstars are getting shellacked. It's just, even the hot dogs are cold. I don't know what to say. It's just, no matter what you look at, it's not pleasant right now. And, as a sports fan, I can deal with it because, the NBA playoffs here in New York were a big thrill for everybody. And, you take the good with the bad. It's all history.
So because you went to the game on Memorial Day weekend, and because they're doing so poorly, and what's the ticket situation like now? Can you get an affordable ticket? What kind of seats did you get?
I actually took advantage of a Memorial Day 2-for-1 special.
Oh, nice.
I think the two of us went for $34 total.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was not in the upper deck. It was like there's this like this middle Excelsior level, they call it, I think, and it's like between the field boxes and the upper deck, and it's great view of the field, and that was nice.
That's great.
But, listen, it's anybody who goes home and kicks the garbage can because their team lost, you gotta re-examine your values. Could you imagine somebody having a fit like a baseball fan does if, let's say, they love Roman Reigns and he lost? And by the way, have you ever seen the video of the guys watching football games one after another? And it's a video of them destroying the TV.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's like their team lost, and it's just guy after guy ripping the TV off the wall and throwing it, or somebody punching it and the whole thing catches fire, or somebody else just stomps on it. What is wrong with the American sports fan?
Well, the only time I could see where that might be a valid response would be if you have money on a game and you just lost money. However, the flip side of that, of course, is that if you just lost a ton of money on a game, the last thing you probably want to do is destroy your television set, being that that's just going to be extra money that you're going to be out when you have to replace your television set.
Yeah, but here's the deal. All these videos were in a group situation. What if it was somebody else's TV set?
Oh, that's different. Yeah, I don't know. I would say football is probably the biggest offender of all the sports with that reaction, right?
No question.
Yeah.
Football is just, the fans are the most manic. Oh, gosh. I went to a football game with a friend of mine once in the Carolinas, and they act like somebody stole their wallet. I don't know what to say. If your team is losing, they just go off. So I never look at it. Here's the problem with an old fuddy-duddy like me who was in journalism and newspapers and magazines and covered sports. The thing is this, to be impartial and objective, right? The old expression, there's no rooting in the press box. And if I go to a sporting event, to me, it's all history whether they win or lose. I don't get upset when they lose. It's fun to watch a hot team that you follow. But other than that, I just, I take it like an adult. We'll put it that way. Oh, they didn't win this year. I hope they do better next year. And then you have the offseason where you can follow the player trades and all the adjustments the team makes to try to get better. The game within the game. That's as much fun as the game is sometimes. In fact, in the case of New York Mets, the trades and the trade rumors are more fun than the actual games are when the team is this bad. So,
right.
So it's. I don't understand the psyche of the American sports fan. They take it way too seriously. Some folks take pro wrestling way too seriously.
Yeah,
especially on Facebook. Oh, they're not using this guy right. How can they cut that guy? It's getting old. I really social media, the IWC. Ugh.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, is it just me or is it like wearying to read this stuff?
Yeah, it's getting worse all the time with wrestling. I try not even to read a lot of this stuff anymore. Complaining about somebody losing or this guy losing the title or this guy not getting pushed. It really is at the end of the day. I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like the equivalent of if you're watching a television show, right? Or a movie and it doesn't end the way you like, or you don't think that do we ever watch a movie and say like, well, this actor wasn't used correctly? This guy didn't do this. I mean, you don't say that, but it's the same thing, right? They're doing their job. They're doing what they're being told to do, right? An actor is not going to go off script and do something to get himself, quote unquote, over, right?
I love the fans who write something like this. I'll just use a generic name. Biff Masterson, he's so good. And they're burying him in WWE. They're burying him. He should go to TNA, and you lost your argument right there. Anybody who even has the most minor push in the WWE, you work for money.
Mm-hmm.
Some things are way more important than belts and wins, you dweebs out there. I mean, you have to, if you want to look at realism, see what Chelsea Green said. Some people were complaining she didn't win enough. Well, she said, my new house is pretty nice. Or some words to that effect, right? They don't get it. The worst guy at the bottom of the WWE totem pole is making money you and I would have dreamed to make and doing it all probably in 1 year. I rest my case. There's no other consideration. People say about the ball players, well, they don't want to win. They don't play hard enough. Well, there's a consideration there too. This guy's a clubhouse cancer. This guy's no good. They need a leader in the clubhouse to walk in and go, rah, rah, team, let's go. No. You know what motivates them? The long green. That's what motivates all professional athletes. The same way you or I, Joe. If somebody in publishing walked up to me and said, I'm going to give you X numbers of dollars to join us right now, I will fly out the door as we speak. Yeah. Quit podcasting and go do that. Because we all work for money, guys. That's the consider. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're all trying to better ourselves, have the best lives we can. I don't care if, Doink the Clown made $1 million, good for him. I just think, you know what I'm saying? It's like, whatever. It's not the wins. It's not the belts, guys. Or you kids out there, it's who I'm talking to. Us old farts. We know what the score is. Oh, he's not pushed right. It's a tragedy. This guy got cut. Well, they could go work somewhere else. This is the new indie rush now. You can wrestle if you want to wrestle. Because if you have been in WWE, you've got name brand recognition, even if you change your name. People know who you are when you walk in.
Right. What I think
so it's not a tragedy getting cut. I just read that Nikki Cross, her man who's also wrestling, just bought a wrestling company.
I read that as well, yeah.
So if she had no money, was treated poorly, she had enough money to buy a wrestling company.
Right.
I rest my case. Calm down. Everybody's got to calm down out there.
I also find it funny, one of the things you said earlier about, the people online, the community. Oh, this guy should, they're not using him right. He should go to TNA. They're not using him right. He should go to AEW, as if anybody can just, at the flip of it, just say, you know what? I'm not happy here in WWE. I think tomorrow I'll show up in TNA and I'll work there. Or I'm not happy here. I think I'm just going, as if like you can just leave a job. I mean, people that have jobs, can we just leave our job and just work for a competitor just because we want to? Can I just call up my competitor and say, I'm not happy here. Tomorrow I'll show up there and I'm going to start working for you? No. So it's not as easy as he should go there. They'll treat him right or they'll push you. That's not the way it works.
No, it's not the way it works. Children, buy your ticket, sit in your seat, be polite, and enjoy the show. We overthink things to the hilt. And in wrestling, of all things. Now, if you don't like the way a promotion is promoting, I just read one of the writers in the Wrestling Observer wrote at the end of, he did a recap of Raw recently and quit. He said, I can't do this anymore. I don't like the product.
Good
for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. That is your prerogative. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you'd rather write about something else or a different organization, go do that. I got no problem with it. But as a fan, that should be your prerogative too. To act like the writer did for the Observer. Just go, well, I don't like this company. Watch the other company. Mm-hmm. Watch NWA. Watch TNA. Watch Gotham Wrestling. Whatever you think is going to make you happier, go watch it. There's plenty of wrestling out there.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a couple announcements to make about a couple of our friends. You remember Brad Balukshian, who wrote the book, The Wax Pack for baseball and the wrestling book too?
I did a feature on him at Generation X Wire, yeah.
He's doing a day-by-day deep dive on the mid-1980s WWF, including posting all the internal financial data he acquired on attendance, gates, payoffs, the nuts and bolts of that 80s stuff, as well as other internal WWF documents from the era. Don't ask me how he digs this stuff up, you know? So if anybody's interested in checking that out, I thought it was kind of interesting. You go to patreon.com/thebradpack because all his books are the pack of whatever. Yeah. Also, one other thing, a couple of my podcasting friends, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, which is Ray Russell's thing. Recently, they've done a week by week in May look at old WWF TV shows, like a rundown of what they saw and each match and each result and stuff like that. That's more of what you did see in the camera. Of course, you can go to WrestleCopia.com. The Wrestling Memory Grenade with Ray Russell doing weekly. I'm not going to call them watch-alongs, but they're going to review these shows week by week by week. A lot of memories doing it. Steamboat and all those guys. It's a lot of fun. So, Joe, thank you for being here as always. It's always much appreciated. Tell us, what's happening with GenerationXWire.com? The only entertainment site. What's the only entertainment site, really?
That's it. That's the only one.
Yeah, I can't think of another one. Yeah.
That's a great introduction.
The only entertainment site.
There you go. Does anything shout Generation X more than Star Wars? And we have a great Star Wars review of the new film, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which J.C. Correa did a deep dive into. Wasn't too fond of the new movie. I'll just kind of give a spoiler there.
Joe, good seeing you, buddy. Hope everything is good. Welcome to the summer and all that.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's good being here, and the weather's heating up now.
After a winter like this, it feels good to sweat. It really does. I'm serious about that. I go outside with no coat. Oh, please. This is nirvana for me. I'm an upstate boy where we had a bad winter every year. And telling you, we go to the filling station and, your gas lines would freeze up your car, all kinds of problems. But now that I'm down here to see, it's a little bit warmer. So I'm enjoying it just a little bit better. That was my Athens, New York accent.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Thank you.
I can't say I agree with you on that one. As far as the weather, we've talked about this before. I'm not a hot weather guy. That's what air conditioning's for.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Because hot weather means Carvel.
Oh, that is true.
I haven't had Carvel in so long. So while I go beat my head against the wall, I got to get Lou Kipilman out of the green room. He's used to being in the green room.
That's right.
And we'll be back in about count to 5. I'm a little disappointed because my guest and I had just engaged some of the best wrestling banter you will ever hear, and it's just vapor now because we didn't hit the record button. This is what happens when you get two old school wrestling guys in the same room, remembering the same things. And we've just been talking about Harley Race and Bruiser Brody and Paul Orndorff and having a grand time looking back at the wrestlers we really enjoy. And that's what we're going to do in this episode because we have from the Arcadian Vanguard podcast network. He's a producer. He's an editor, I believe. He does everything there is to do with Arcadian Vanguard. And you all know who he is.
Hello there.
Hello, how are you? It's Lou Kipilman.
I try to be humble, but
No.
I can't do my impression of Jim Cornette saying my name. So which is my audio calling card.
Well, I envy you for one important thing, my friend.
Yeah.
In the podcast landscape, I cannot find anyone who doesn't hold you in the highest esteem. I really mean that. All of the guests that I've had from Arcadian Vanguard, people who just listen to the shows and enjoy your work, you've really made your mark in wrestling podcasting. So congratulations on what's been a really cool career so far.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's going to be 8 years this November. Brian Last gave me the shot, and however many hundreds of podcasts later, I'm still at it. So I'm grateful.
Brian Last is the Lorne Michaels of wrestling podcasting because he knows how to pick them, right?
Sure.
That's the key. You got to know talent and grab it when you see it. So I give Brian all the props for that. Well, anyway, we're going to talk about Lou's favorite things. Yes, it's another one of these shows where we're just going to go back. I have my list of pre-written questions here in pencil. In pencil, you young punks. Okay, there it is. I just showed Lou the list. And we're just going to talk about, forget your journalism shoes, forget everything. We're just going to talk about the stuff you really liked getting involved with wrestling as a younger person. And I'm sure you're like the rest of us, you found out about it in probably your early teenage years. Am I correct? Or is that off the mark?
I was 12 years old, and it was a Friday afternoon, and I just turned on, I flip in the UHF channels, and I get to channel 26, which in San Francisco was multilingual, mainly Asian languages, except for this Friday afternoon at 5, when it was AWA All-Star Wrestling. I had fleetingly seen wrestling here and there before that, but it never connected with me. This time, it was different because we had King Kong Brody make a run in and just lay out the high flyers, Jim Brunzell and Greg Gagne. And it was so brutal. I'm like, oh, wow. that is what hooked me.
I can certainly understand that. Well, we were the same age. I'm just so much older than you are. Oh, God. It's like I said, I go back to 1970 when I was 12. Of all organizations, Pedro Martinez's NWF out of Cleveland, Buffalo. Mm-hmm. They decided to make a run in the Capital District of New York State, near Albany, and promoted areas near there. And they were only up there a year or two, maybe. Okay. They had promoted in that region, but then when they put TV in, I think they gave it up after maybe as few as 3 years. Apparently, they didn't draw; just felt that the travel was too much because it's a long way from Cleveland to Albany, So I think that was the determinant factor why it was so short. But I loved it while it was there. And thankfully, the same station at the same time put on the WWF about 6 months after they left. So everything worked out great.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and unfortunately, I was a few years too late to follow the local promotion, Roy Shire.
Oh.
He had closed up shop by early 81, and he stopped running his own TV in mid-79. So for a couple of years, his circuit had shrunk down to the Cow Palace shows. He brought in TV from Kansas City, Portland, and then eventually Florida. By the time of his yearly big Battle Royal show, that was it. He turned out the lights. It was a few months before that AWA started showing TV in San Francisco. The same month, January 81, I want to say they started running shows at the Oakland Coliseum Arena. Vern went Manifest Destiny, charging ever westward from, I think the most west he had gone was Salt Lake, but moved on out to San Francisco. So the wrestling that hooked me didn't necessarily have a West Coast flavor. It wasn't quite as, let's say, flaky as the LA product, the Mike LaBelle. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of meat and potatoes and old guys like Mad Dog Vachon and Baron von Raschke. It was an interesting mix.
I got to tell you, people only know what's on YouTube and stuff these days. And they give the AWA such short shrift for the breadth and width of their promotion. From Minneapolis to San Francisco, like you said, to many, many other states. I put it to you that at their height, they may have promoted in more different states than any other promotion in the country.
Yeah, it's hard to think of a territory with that much expanse. Yeah. I mean, maybe the Welsh Gulas dynasty in the southeast, but boy, geographically, I think Vern had that beat.
All right, so here's young Lou Kipilman.
Yes.
Indoctrinated by Vern Gagne and his bunch. Now, put on your thinking cap, here we go. Do you remember the first live card you ever saw in your own, you had to be in attendance for this. Do you remember the first time? Because I know I definitely remember mine.
Yes. And in fact, let me go to my notes. It was August 25th of 1987. Decided to go to the Cow Palace. They were taping 3 weeks of Wrestling Challenge. My first encounter was nobody told me that it would be kind of a boring and repetitive and not many competitive matches on TV. Though the dark match was good. It was Hulk Hogan against Killer Khan. And then the other thing that I remember, if you recall, the wrestling album Volume 2, called Pile Driver. They did some recording in the ring with Coco Beware, singing the song Pile Driver. Look, we're taping this video. You get to be a part of it. Hurrah! So Coco does his thing, and then Howard Finkel comes out and says, Thank you for your patience. We're going to record this one more time." Coco comes out, does its thing, and then Howard Finkel comes out again and says, "Thank you for your patience. We're going to record this one more time." It went like 3 or 4 times, so that the last take, a bunch of kids jumped the barricades and came into the ring. So it was, as Vince McMahon would say, it was pandemonium.
This reminds me of a time when I used to be in the music business and get passes for all kinds of stuff. And at one point, we got passes to see the Reformed Culture Club at a big venue in New York City, one of the bigger clubs. And it was a VH1 taping, I think. And again, we watched this whole show, and then somebody comes out and goes, "We need to re-record the audio. We got to redo a couple of the songs. Please, everybody stay." And everybody in the place was like, "I got to get out of here." Right. And we had to talk our way out of the building because it was like, no, we need you to look like a full crowd on TV and everything. And we said, "No, sorry, got to go." So it was one of those situations where, all TV tapings are the same.
Oh, yeah. Remember the one TV show I saw taped was The King of Queens with Kevin James.
Really?
And that's the thing. They don't tell you that you're, free tickets. You get to see TV being made. By the way, you're a captive audience for about 5 hours.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. That's why they tell you everybody use the restroom before we get started, because it's like I attended 2. This is kind of pressing given the newsletter. I attended 2 David Letterman tapings at the Ed Sullivan Theater. And it was the same thing. It's like, you guys, you got to go. We're going to just go to the restroom and then everybody come back and assemble. We're going to go bring you inside to your tickets and blah, 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 blah. And it took forever. It was just the one show, but it took probably about 3 hours.
Wow. Now, was the legend true that Letterman kept the AC to a very cold level for the audience?
Yeah, it felt like it was below 50 degrees in there.
Wow.
It really did. But I knew it going in, so I wore sort of a heavy overshirt, but it was, I remember the year too, it was 92. Okay. 92 for one, and one of the shows I went to was when he had the birth of his baby.
Oh.
Where he announced that, so it was kind of historic, cool. Very cool, yeah. I'm going to ask you about your overall favorite wrestler. Now, we're also going to have a good guy, bad guy after this, but looking back at watching wrestling for as long as you have, if one talent, if one personality, if one star really shines out to you as the person I could call this most admired wrestler too. Who would that be?
There are many to pick from. I'd probably have to go with the guy who brung me to the dance, Bruiser Brody. He scared the bejeebers out of me in the AWA. And then, thanks to programs like World Class Championship Wrestling and then Pro Wrestling This Week, where I got introduced to all these territories around the country that I got to see. I thought, wow, I wonder if Bruiser Brody is a good guy somewhere. And he was in Texas, and he was for Jerry Blackwell's promotion in Georgia, and he was in St. Louis and Kansas City. Talk about a guy who could not necessarily have to switch up his style, but just be the commanding presence that he was. Have a squash match in 3 or 4 minutes, or go 60 minutes with Ric Flair. Of course, Ric Flair could take anybody to the time limit, but that was a hell of a match, too.
Let me pick your brain a little bit about Brody in the AWA. Did they not refer to him there as King Kong Brody? Because
Correct.
They didn't want to upset Dick the Bruiser.
That's right. And it was all around that time. There was sort of a domino effect. Brody came in. Yeah, in the Midwest, St. Louis, Kansas City, they called him King Kong Bruiser Brody.
Right.
Because of the Dick the Bruiser connection with Sam Muchnick. And then he went to Bruiser's promotion in the late 70s, early 80s. And I guess they had a series based on, winner keeps the Bruiser nickname.
Wow.
So I had heard that Brody went over, and for a while, Dick Afflis was known as just plain Dick. I don't know. I can't verify the veracity of that, but that would have been awesome. So then by 84, when Brody comes in, Vern used Bruiser sparingly by that point. And, Bruiser was no longer a partner in Chicago. Vern still respected the Bruiser name, and they called him King Kong Brody. Around the same time, King Kong Bundy came in ever so briefly as a baby face. He had been in Georgia. So he came into the AWA. He couldn't be King Kong. So Vern came up with Boom Boom Bundy, which I don't think that ever really went over with the fans. Boom Boom Bundy.
I can't imagine being a babyface either.
Yeah, it was funny. It was just that particular period of time in Georgia when he left the Legion of Doom. Was it him and the Mass Superstar went against the Road Warriors? Mm-hmm. And then he, kind of stuck his nose in Mid-Atlantic and then went to the AWA, then went back to his heel ways in Memphis. Yeah, there was a reason he wasn't a babyface too many times.
Well, you're bringing back the beauty of the territorial days. You know better than anybody. Not everybody saw everybody in every organization unless you read the wrestling magazines back then. So you could bring in anyone you want and turn them into a face or a heel depending on your need as a promotion. There's a lot to be said for that.
Oh, absolutely. Interesting, though. My fandom got enhanced when I got to see Pro Wrestling This Week and see the different flavors of wrestling, whether you had the workaday guys in Portland or you had the gimmicks, like in Memphis. The first match I saw had a manager named Brother Ernest Angel, who's based off a televangelist named Ernest Angley. And his gimmick was to hit his charges opponents with the good book. So only in Memphis.
And I remember this era, and they used to kind of get away with it by only calling it the good book. Yeah. They never referred to it as a Bible. It was the good book.
Exactly.
Well, now somebody in the AWA has copped that, and they say they do things by the book, and I think the book is used in the ring to smash people over the head with. So it's everything old is new, right?
Oh, right. That reminds me of a manager on the Independents named Truth Martini, which he had the Book of Truth under his arm. I don't know if it was gimmicked to clobber opponents with, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, but with Pro Wrestling This Week, it was the old cables rolling out across the country. It's hard to keep kayfabe when you see Terry Funk as a white meat babyface in Amarillo and then a frothing at the mouth heel in Florida or Georgia. And it's just interesting to see how the switches were. Like, I had seen Blackjack Mulligan in the AWA and the WWF, he was a babyface. Then they started showing world-class wrestling on ESPN, and Mulligan was chicken heel who mutilated Bruiser Brody with the spear of his boot. So the spur. And so it was like, okay, this is how it's going. You had suspicions, but it kind of laid it bare.
Let's go on to the next one. Your favorite? Now, if you were like me as a neophyte fan, you would watch it and you would like the good guys at first. The scientific guys, the guys who waved at the crowd. You know what I'm saying? It's just natural as a kid fan that those would be your favorite ones. I know it was that way for me until I changed my stripes in 1975. But who's your favorite good guy?
Oh, boy. It's
this one is hard. It's hard. I agree with it.
It is, especially since we've all gone through the last 30 years of attitude-influenced booking.
There's no such thing as a good guy or a bad guy anymore. It's just who you like. They all cheat. Nobody follows the rules. So now it's just whose personality you like better. Honestly.
Yeah.
Can you really say Cody Rhodes is a clean wrestler? You can't.
I know. And that's the thing. When AEW started up and he was just really trying to present himself as a white meat babyface, yet he was beating the tar out of Darby Allin. Like the first match I saw, just spent 20 minutes to a draw, just pummeling him as a heel would. So that was cognitive dissonance for me. You know, how can you present yourself as such? Good guys, you know, I got about the same time I found the AWA, WWF had been introduced in the Bay Area about a year prior. And I turned it on one day and there's Hulk Hogan. I'm like, oh, that's where he is. Talk about a guy who always wrestled like a heel, but was tremendously over and had a great rap. It's like between him and I had heard about Dusty Rhodes. I saw maybe one or two clips of him. He did one shot in the AWA. It was the St. Paul Battle Royal show. It was famous for Jerry Blackwell getting beaten down by Adnan Al-Kaisi and Abdullah the Butcher and Bruiser Brody. Dusty Rhodes comes in. He's exhorting this completely beaten down and bloodied Jerry Blackwell to get up, get up. He's exhorting the crowd, up, Jerry, up. Talk about, that's about as big a babyface action as you can imagine. And I didn't get to see him regularly until Jim Crockett Promotions started running TV in San Francisco beginning of '86. And that was right in the middle of putting the rocket on Jim Crockett Promotions. A great, great time. That's probably my favorite period of time as a fan. Going back to heels, if there's one heel who I didn't like him as a young fan, but I could appreciate the way he riled me up, it would have been Tully Blanchard.
Wow, what a great pick. This is favorite bad guy, by the way. You might as well just shove it right in there, yeah. Tully Blanchard, please explain.
Arn Anderson, he was a ruffian. He was the enforcer. He could cut a hell of a promo. Ric Flair was Ric Flair, and you could not help but like him, even as he was breaking Dusty's ankle or breaking Ricky Morton's nose or whatever. Tully Blanchard was just a guy who strutted around, just cut such an annoying promo. In the ring, even against jobbers, he would, right out the gate, he would extend his hand, and then he'd just kick the guy in the breadbasket and lay him out. The thing I appreciated about Tully Blanchard was that he wasn't an imposing or towering figure, but he was a guy who could come at you, just have that offense, and then when it's time for the babyface to get fired up or whatever, he was the greatest sort of weasel where he could just backpedal just as fast as he would go into gear. To me, that makes a textbook heel.
Great pick. Very unique. And you laid it out perfectly. But you think about him, born into the business, honed his act in the Southwest, moved along, and the super brat phase and all that other stuff that he went through. The tag team with Gino Hernandez early on into the NWA where the Horsemen would dominate. You're right. He was exceptional at what he did. I can't argue with your pick at all.
It's funny. And I remember the WWF video about the Four Horsemen. Tully compared the Horsemen to like dynamite, and he called himself the Blasting Cap. He's the guy who set stuff off. So I can't disagree.
No, you absolutely cannot. So now more fond memories for you, okay? Your favorite arena that you actually attended, not that you saw on television. Like, if you could pick one place where you saw wrestling and you thought, this is the perfect wrestling arena, I'm having the best time of my life here, what arena would that be? It doesn't need to be arena. It could be a CYO or an armory or something.
Yeah. For historical reasons, it would be the Olympic Auditorium in LA. I took a trip and flew down there for the one time that ECW ran on the West Coast. It was a pay-per-view Heatwave 2000. I went there just by myself, not knowing anybody in the crowd, because I wanted to be there, because ECW, though it was on the wane, it was still a hell of a promotion. And so getting in there, I don't think I had a full grasp of the complete history of the Olympic Auditorium. They still had the Richmond 95171 signs up in the arena. And it was a hell of a show too, because competing promotion called XPW, they bought some front row tickets. So some of the workers came in. Workers and valet / off-duty porno stars. They came in, they were trying to stir stuff up to the point where the crew came out of the back and took on these other guys, got them out the side entrance and had them brawling in the parking lot. That's the only time I've seen extracurriculars like that anywhere. And in LA. So
sounds about right for that era too.
Yeah. And most of the time I've seen wrestling at the Cow Palace. And the Cow Palace, for sentimental reasons, is probably my go-to arena. I saw good Jim Crockett promotion shows at the Civic Auditorium in downtown San Francisco, also in Oakland, at a place called the Henry J. Kaiser Arena, which I think they're in the midst of rehabilitating. But those would have been the kind of the four venues. Recently, the past few years, I've been to, of all places, it's called the United Irish Cultural Center. It's out in the very far avenues of San Francisco, right by the ocean, right across the street from the San Francisco Zoo. And there's a promotion called West Coast Pro Wrestling. And they run shows there on a pretty regular basis. And they bring in good guys. The one show I went to there, it was Tom Lawler, Filthy Tom Lawler against Jacob Fatu.
Wow.
This would have been about 4 years removed from Jacob Fatu coming into WWE. That was a great experience because I was probably in the second row in this place, which could only seat maybe a few hundred people. And then you have Jacob Fatu like doing almost like a tope or getting out of the ring and landing near my feet. You're not going to find that at a big two or big three promotions card. So yeah. They're the keepers of the flame, I think, for independent wrestling in the Bay Area.
Nice to know that. That's great.
Yeah.
Here's a real poser for you. You think it's been tough to this point, right? Here we go. The match that you consider the best you've ever seen. If you look back at this one match and you go, my gosh, I can't think of a better match. This really thrilled me. I'll always remember this. What would that match be?
I think, a lot of people will be surprised, but the match that I could remember that I really got into, it was at the Cow Palace. It was New Japan's first show in San Francisco. It was the G1 special. Main event was Kenny Omega versus Cody Rhodes, which was, a spot fest, whatever. The match that I came away from saying, that was a great match. That was a hell of a match. It was for the IWGP US title. The champion was Jay White, the Switchblade. His opponent was Juice Robinson. I hadn't seen much of either competitor, but they went fire and fury, and they made it to the outside. Jim Ross was doing commentary at ringside. What happened? Jay White Irish whipped Juice Robinson into the barricades, and somehow a chain reaction kind of took out Jim Ross. Jim Ross's broadcast partner was Josh Barnett, a.k.a. someone you really don't want to piss off. Josh Barnett got stepped away from the broadcast table, went into the ring, and looked like he was going to legit put a hurting on Jay White. But then after that calmed down, it went back to being a great match, and Juice Robinson got the victory and got the title. And for my money, that was probably one of the more compelling matches I've ever seen live.
That is a beautiful answer because you didn't pick something off some pay-per-view. Like my first thought when I was thinking best match I ever saw, I can't remember what I said. It was either a house show match with Steamboat Flair or it was Steamboat Savage at WrestleMania 3. But you see what I mean? Those are the ones that continually stick in my head as, geez, what's going to beat that? Who's going to be a better match than that? But you, to pick out a match on a card like that shows it really did stick in your head and heart, and you remember the details of it all these years later. So that's a fascinating pick.
Oh, and talk about a guy who currently isn't being used to the fullest of his ability. That would be Juice Robinson. I don't know if he's injured right now. Jay White, as far as I know, is injured, and they're both kind of on the shelf and forgotten in AEW. I don't know what the deal is, but Juice Robinson and Jay White, as partners, were part of one of the greatest tag team matches you could ever see when they went against FTR and went about 59 minutes on TV. Can't say enough kind of good things about the competition there. So I hope they get back to TV soon, get back to competing in AEW and having great matches.
The perils of the huge rosters, it shoves people under the rug sometimes, the way it works. Even in WWE, the same thing.
Sure.
All right. Your favorite single event. Now, this could be anything. It could be a show in a barn you saw somewhere. It could be a major pay-per-view you saw on television. It could be a regular arena house show, anything. If you could pick out an event that you go, wow, this is as good as it gets, which one was it?
If we're talking good match quality, it would have to be one of the Jim Crockett promotion shows I saw. I might be thinking of when they brought the War Games all around the country. War Games was a hell of a match and a hell of a card, really, because they had UWF and JCP workers. If we're talking about like a personal favorite, it was not for any reasons of match quality or wrestler quality, the place I went to high school.
Okay.
In Marin County, California, Larkspur, California, July of '88. Somehow, I don't know if it was a police athletic league, they got the WWF to do a spot show. There were a lot of wrestlers, name wrestlers on there. But what was funny, one of the first matches, Bulldog Bob Brown against Coco Samoa. Two wrestlers who had been all around the map, but as far as I know, never went to New York.
No.
And so they were just there because they needed bodies. There was the Powers of Pain against the Bolsheviks. Just in my small high school gym, the main event was Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, against Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I would call it the diametric opposite of that multi-stip cage match in Houston, where it wasn't coal miner's glove on a pole tuxedo match. loser leave town. Instead, this was about a good 8-minute match with Virgil interfering for the finish. It was just your typical tabulum, probably C or D roster card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was a trip to see these guys up close.
The first card I ever saw was in high school gym in the county next to mine in upstate New York. And, place probably held 1,000 people the most. And thought it was the greatest thing I ever saw in my life. Because You know what? When you see it for the first time, oh, the boots are so shiny. Oh, gosh, these guys are so big. It's the kid stuff that you remember. It's like, I was always fascinated by how shiny some of their boots were. And then you saw a veteran and the boots were like, you could tell it's the same boots he wore every match since 1965. It's like, so that kind of thing, I just found it all fascinating, right down to the state athletic commission guys who were sitting at ringside and the referees. Our referee in our area was the same guy who did Little League baseball umpire.
Okay.
Apparently, the state athletic commission sanctions both. Back then. The New York State Athletic Commission was so encompassing with wrestling until they changed that rule. And you would see Benny Morrell, God rest his soul, either behind the plate or in the middle of the ring getting thrown over by Ivan Koloff. So it was like, those were the days, man. It's just fantastic. Your favorite year in wrestling?
86.
Okay.
I can say that without reservation. It was the discovery of Jim Crockett Promotions, watching Worldwide Wrestling, then figuring out that they had the time slot on TBS. And this is on John McAdams' podcast. The next one, the one we just recorded, him and his guest flashback to May of 1986, kind of going through all the television for Jim Crockett Promotions and seeing what were the programs that were getting built up, what were the feuds, how were they building to that first Great American Bash on tour, all the events going around the country. It was firing on all cylinders. It was such a stark contrast to the WWF had kind of softened. You weren't going to have brawls and mud and blood and beer and all that stuff. You had the Four Horsemen. You had Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, even somebody with comedic appeal like Jimmy Valiant or Bugsy McGraw or whomever. Everybody kind of had their slot, and they were all kind of interwoven, working with each other. The Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, even to a limited degree, the Paul Jones Army. Besides the AWA, watching that really cemented my lifelong fandom. And it was that year to the point where even tragedy outside the ring, Magnum TA's car accident, how were they going to work around that? Oh, turn Nikita Koloff babyface. That was, it was dire times that necessitated dire measures. Dusty Rhodes was able to book that all really great. It was, if we're talking about 1 year, 87 was the beginning of sort of the decline, and then 88, it was started with a nosedive and ended with a sale to Turner. But 86 Jim Crockett Promotions for me was probably the year for me.
So we're going to take a right turn on you.
Yeah.
All right. Whimsical question. Wherever you went and saw wrestling, like if you had a favorite arena that had a favorite snack or beverage that you really enjoyed, does something leap into your head and go, boy, I'd like another one of those, fill in the blank. Go ahead.
Oh. Well, I mean, I didn't try the WWF ice cream bars. I don't recall ever getting a hot dog at a wrestling show. For me, it was probably just the good old popcorn, with the questionable butter topping.
What are we talking about? Now, do you ever read a wrestling book? And if you have read wrestling books, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I've read a few currently. I'm in the middle of Irresistible Force, Brian R. Solomon's new book about Gorilla Monsoon. Eminently enjoying it. I also loved his prior book on the Sheik, Blood and Fire. And then, if we're talking about books about wrestling, not necessarily autobiographies. You have Tim Hornbaker. I've read a few of his. The one about Capital Wrestling, the one about beginnings of the NWA, the one about death of the territories. He's really an impeccable source. And then you have, as far as autobiographies, I like the Ric Flair one. I wish the Terry Funk one had been better. It didn't come off all that well, in my opinion. Bob Backlund's, I thought, Bob Backlund, vanilla oatmeal, whatever. But him and his co-author, they came up with a really compelling book about his, from his early days to sleeping in the trunk of his car in the Leroy McGurk territory, dining on canned tuna, to getting that shot courtesy of Terry Funk to make himself a name in Amarillo and then onward and upward. One that I don't know how many people have read, but I thought was great, Lynn Denton, The Grappler. It was so entertaining and so informative, kind of from his beginnings in Texas to, going through McGurk and Watts territory to Southwest to Memphis to World Class to Central States, where he ended up booking for Harley Race, up to Portland. He got to book for a while and got in good with Roddy Piper. A really, really refreshing read. I would recommend that one.
But I was asking for the one that you continually refer to or the one that you think back on. If you could pick one, which one would it be?
I haven't read it in years, but probably would have been among the first that I read. Have a Nice Day by Mick Foley.
Boy, something, in the several of these that I've recorded, that has been number one on a lot of people's lists. Because that one kind of broke the doors down, I think.
It definitely did. And it was the first book I got in hardcover and the audiobook version, because Mick Foley could tell a story. Yeah. And he was just hilarious hearing him tell his own stories, doing his impression of Vince McMahon to where you hear Stephanie McMahon outside the booth laughing her ass off. Touches like that. I don't know if that audiobook is still available anywhere, but
I imagine it would be. Just check Amazon, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, that is the consensus pick on this particular question moving forward. Tremendous. My personal favorite was Brian Solomon's Chic book. That's the book I waited my whole life to read. I don't know how he wrote that book, because to go back to the 70s and 60s and 50s even and dig up all that material about his early years, how many people are still alive to even talk about it? So the job he did was what they call the yeoman job on that. It was just amazing.
Without a doubt. And the amount of research he had to do to trace the Farhat family tree all the way back to Lebanon and Syria, to the family and all the various family members in Michigan, and then digging up. There was nobody more kayfabe than the Sheik.
Right.
So it had to be at least doubly hard to uncover the stuff that Brian was unable to uncover, especially considering the Farhat family didn't really cooperate with him.
A lot of other people, too, in the business didn't cooperate with him. And it's the best last chapter of any book I've ever read, because it's summed up what he did for wrestling by building his own persona, for never breaking that golden rule of this is real and everybody's going to think it's real. And if wrestling was still like that, it would be a lot better today. But this is the old man talking. What can I tell you?
All right. Is it 10 minutes from now already?
Yeah, it is. My whole life's 10 minutes from now. Hey, now, you know what I used to do for a living when I lucked into working for the PWI family of magazines, as well as WCW, as well as a bunch of other ones. What was your favorite wrestler? Did you read magazines, and do you have a favorite title? And it doesn't have to be anything I was involved with. I'm just listen, I've admitted on this show, my favorite magazines growing up were the Kaiser books, because I love the agate pages in the back with all those results. So whatever you say is fine.
I'm somebody who, in my youth, I just loved reading, period. When I had the time, if I could go by the bookstore or the 7-Eleven and kind of see what was on the rack. If I had a preference, it would have been PWI. I got, the Wrestler a few times.
Well, I'm so happy because it's like when you were starting to read those magazines, I think I was on the staff, so yay. Anytime I meet somebody who says, "I read your stuff way back when," it knocks me out. I have people sending me clips,
Wow.
like, PDFs of old articles I wrote, including my first column. I forget who you are that sent it to me, but I'll always be grateful because I didn't have a copy. My first steel cage column with PWI was me standing in between Larry Zbyszko and Bruno Sammartino because they were about to go to Loggerhead. It was a work, of course.
Yeah.
But it really cemented that column and got me up to a good start. But no, I appreciate the fact that you probably read my name in wrestling magazines all those years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the thing. Was I a big fan of wrestling magazines?
You can say no.
I'm not sure because there was a part of me, okay, all these, bloody photos in full color and inspired a bit of revulsion.
Okay.
There was some articles where it was like, really, did J.J. Dillon write this? Did so-and-so write that? Is this?
Of course they did. What are you talking about?
I know, silly me.
I'm going to hit the stop button on this recording, sir. How dare you infer such a thing?
Yeah, so it was like the product was good. I had to I had to suspend the disbelief.
Yeah, just like when you watch anything else. I will say this, and I will stand on this. I will stand on my reputation on this. I used to be charged with doing the ratings most of my tenure there. I am telling you, they were heavily researched and not, how do I put this? They were not set up by the organizations. Because we got results in from all the country, from our various correspondents, fans who wrote in and stuff. Every Monday, we would spend all day Monday taking phone calls from people giving us match results from all over the country. Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
So they were all based on that and no other consideration. Now, of course, champions got higher in the ratings because they were champions.
Right.
But we looked at things like it was a sport, and we actually sat down and compiled lists of who won this week, what was his record this week, and that's how it worked. And I'm telling you, that's how we did it. Other people say no. I am insisting that it did, and I will stand by this.
And I may have been too harsh in my initial opinion because I really did enjoy reading what was happening in the different territories,
right?
The different match records. For that alone, that was really informative.
You sound like you're like me to this day, my friend. To this day, I remain loyal to the newspaper business. Now, I get my newspaper digitally, but it's like a PDF of the actual paper. So I'm reading the same thing that I would read if I went to a newsstand. And what do? Every single day when I have a day off or I have time to do it, I turn to the back of the paper to read the agate pages, the small print stuff, the box scores, the line scores. What's going to happen today? Who's pitching today? That's my jam. It's always been the stats. And I was that way with the wrestling magazines too. Get the Kaiserbook, open it to the back, and get all those match results and the rating.
Yeah, if we're talking sports and stats, you're talking to somebody who went on a coast-to-coast road trip 11 years ago with my wife. We went to 13 different MLB parks, a couple of minor league parks, and I had my trusty scorebook with me all the way to keep track. So I certainly appreciate that sort of.
This has nothing to do with wrestling. I got to interject. You cannot keep score at today's major league ballparks. Between the lighting and the noise and the music that's blasting your ears, and the fact that they'll announce who the relief pitcher is during music playing in the background, it's virtually impossible to keep score. I loved keeping score going to the local games here. It's impossible. You can't do it. So I just take my phone out, go to the MLB app, and check out they have a live box score there.
Right.
It's the only thing you can do because they don't care about the old school fan experience. It's like a giant shopping mall with a disco built into it. I'm not complaining, but I'm complaining. I still love baseball, but I'm complaining. Baseball should be pastoral, not a reflection of the outer society.
Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you with what they've done in the past few years with the lighting.
Yeah.
The lighting effects for, when the closer comes in or somebody hits a homer.
Yeah, the lights are flashing on and off.
Yes.
And they have to play a warning at the beginning of the game.
Strobe
If you're disturbed by flashing lights or if it doesn't affect your health, we have to warn you we're going to do this. My answer to that is this. If you know it's gonna bother people, why are you doing it in the first place?
Yeah, yeah.
It's ridiculous. Baseball's its own animal. Isn't the sport enough?
Yeah. I draw the line at the exploding scoreboard at what used to be Comiskey.
Right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Favorite woman wrestler? It could be somebody from today or Moolah era or anything. Do you have a favorite female star?
Well, I can certainly appreciate the athleticism of the women over the last 15 years. Women's wrestling kind of coming into its own. If we're talking from my early fandom, I certainly appreciated Sherry Martel. I didn't see her wrestle that much, but she was a AWA women's champion. And then, of course, you definitely get to appreciate her more as the manager / valet. I got to see kind of the early Medusa, which I hadn't seen her kind of making her bones in Japan, but I did get to, see her in the WWF and in WCW. Certainly that was, if I had a absolute favorite, it would probably be Medusa.
Nothing wrong with that pick at all. But I will say up to this point, and this is a series of shows we're doing with a lot of people, believe it or not, Rhea Ripley is way ahead. And I there's just something about her that's so unique and different. And from the presentation to the in-ring, and her size and everything else, I just think she's setting a new standard for what's going on right now. And I just think she's immensely entertaining and fun to watch. So, and a good athlete like crazy. So I don't know what to say other than that's the beauty of a list like this is it can be old, it could be new, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's just to find out. But Medusa's a very educated pick, and I still think she was never better than she was in the AWA when she was working.
Yeah, and Rhea Ripley, I agree. She is, as the kids would say, one of one. And if we're talking about other wrestlers, women wrestlers currently, I have a soft spot for Willow Nightingale.
Okay.
I don't necessarily like the garbage stuff she's into, but as a personality, I appreciate her.
Okay. Now, I'm hoping you say what you're going to say on this one, but your favorite territory back in the territory days.
Oh.
Give it to me.
Yeah. Thank goodness for digitizing video and sharing video by all the territories we're talking about. And I'll concentrate on the U.S., Mid-South / UWF.
You surprised me. And again, a shocking number of people that I'm talking to in the industry like you are saying that same thing.
I loved it when it was on the WWE network, that you could follow it. And that's a way to appreciate Mid-South, was to follow it serially, because it made, for the most part, logical sense.
Right. It did.
Bill Watts had held a steady hand at the rudder, and then occasionally you get to weird stuff like in 83, there was weird sort of technicalities around the North American title between, I want to say, Mr. Olympia, Junkyard Dog / Staker Lee, Magnum TA, Nikolai Volkov, Butch Reed. That was a bit of a cluster. But for the most part, stories were told, stories continued, rivalries were not forgotten. Everything, especially in the world of pro wrestling, had a logic to it.
I am amazed at the number of times Mid-South has come up. Some of the people who said it were younger, who discovered it through video, like you just talked about. There's something about it was seamless, it was logical, the action was always red hot, and it had that aura of believability that they don't even try to have now. Got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why people enjoyed that so much. Now, your last question. No more grilling for you, and I want you to get marks on you. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm well marbled.
I have one more. Your favorite old school wrestling weekly television series, right? The one you would turn on your TV on a Saturday to watch or on a Sunday, depending where you lived. Did you have one that you look back on and go, I got to see this. This is my show?
For the breadth of coverage, it would have been Pro Wrestling This Week. I just tried to make sure not to miss an episode. I enjoyed Gordon Soley and Joe Pedicino and Paulie Dangerously.
Mm-hmm.
So as its own sort of special programming, if we're talking about a television show week to week, focusing on one territory, I'm going to say Saturday 6:05, World Championship Wrestling.
I certainly understand that. And you know what? When I started with PWI, Bill Apter had been on it a lot. And I think he still had an intermittent segment on there. In the early ones, he read ratings and stuff like that, things like that. We all love Joe Pedicino. Joe Pedicino, out of Atlanta, did as much for wrestling as anybody can think of, even though he wasn't even working with any of the organizations. He ended up working for the NWA for a while, the fans man, Joe Pedicino. But I am telling you, he had more of a finger on the pulse of what a wrestling fan wanted than anybody I can think of in my years in wrestling. And I miss him like crazy. I miss that show. It was a favorite of mine too. We'd get the videotapes, and I used to get videotapes out of Atlanta every week. And his Pro Wrestling This Week was part of that major wrestling block he had. And I would wait for Monday morning when I come into the office, and that tape would be sitting there waiting for me. A lovely lady named Emmy Yates in Atlanta. Emmy, if you're still with us, we thank you to this day. And I got to see that every month. I would bring the tape home. And I was the only staff that wanted to do it. And I enjoyed every single show on that block. They had Continental. They had Mario Savoldi. They had a B show from the NWA. They had a B show from the WWF. They had that little organization. I think it was Georgia Championship Wrestling that Pedicino was behind. A bunch of other stuff, too. I loved it. I mean, I took my work home, put it that way.
Sure. Yeah, I'm jealous that I never had the moxie to try to get the Atlanta wrestling block and also Saturday Night at Ringside in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's
right. Mick Harsh hosted and put together another wrestling block. Those were a great niche that was.
You had these stations that didn't want to put a test pattern on late at night. And it was brilliant because I know that in Atlanta, a lot of people watch that block. They couldn't have done better if they showed old movies or horror films or anything else. It just rocked. And you had Joe and Bonnie Blackstone were the hosts. And words can't describe how much I love that. It made my job easier. I could report on things in the magazines that I actually saw in those tapes. Bill would get all the angles. Bill Apter was our conduit to the wrestling industry. And he was on the phone constantly 8 hours a day, talking to various promoters. What did you do this week? What you do that week? What's on the show? Who should I send a photographer down to take pictures of? That kind of thing. I learned so much, and that information was flying at me all day long, every day that I worked there. And boy, it was magic. And I didn't realize how good I had it when I had it. No other person who came out of a real sports background like I did and switched to wrestling was that knee deep in it, just in terms of gathering the news, the facts, learning who the stars were, who the rookie people were that were hot. Like I saw Sid Vicious for the first, I saw Rob Van Dam for the first time when they were just little wee tadpoles. Well, none of them were wee, but you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What an exciting time it was for me in my life, really. It was just irreplaceable. Why did they have to move? You know my story, why I left there, right?
Right.
It's like, why did they have to move? I had an apartment. I could walk to the place in the morning, and they moved on me. Stanley got old, sold the company, and today's PWI is as good as it's ever been. The one they're putting out right now, I don't know if you ever see the new one. It's fantastic. All slick paper. It's not even expensive. I think a copy price is $7.99 or something like that. Brian R. Solomon writes for it. Other great writers. Kevin McElvaney, the owner, really knows his stuff. And it is the most comprehensive compendium of wrestling news that you will find on a newsstand today. It's fantastic. I dare say it may be a little better than our magazines were because it's more straight-laced. It's not a lot of hooey, you know?
Sure.
And the color photography is amazing. I just am very, very happy that it continues to this day. It's on an upswing according to the people I talked to with the magazine, which is wonderful. wrestling magazines still exist. And the fact that they're keeping the lineage and then they all look to me as like an elder statesman, the people I talk to that work there, I couldn't be more proud. I'm sorry, I didn't want to take over this conversation, but it means so much to me. We'll put it that way.
Well, you're beginning to sell me on I may get a subscription after this.
I am telling you, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, the nearest Barnes & Noble here has closed. I don't know if PWI would be at 7-Eleven or just, boy, talk about, newsstands. Where do you find one now?
There's the deal. Even in Manhattan, I live in New York City. Even in Manhattan, the corner newsstands are a thing of the past. I think you would have to go to one of the transit hubs where they have those big, what used to be newsstands, and find one there. And I also am lucky enough to have a huge Barnes & Noble about 8 miles away from where I live. But not everybody does. And I don't know how people in rural areas get magazines anymore. I just don't. I would suggest a digital subscription. Seriously, because most magazines now are available digitally. It's, in other words, you read the PDF on your tablet or on your computer. I do that all the time with other magazines.
Okay.
So if you can't find it, I would recommend a digital subscription. It's the same book.
That's a good idea because you may see behind me, it's 2 of 7 boxes full of 40-year-old comic books.
There you go.
I am trying to rapidly shrink the physical footprint of printed media, for one, just to, clear out some room. So, yeah, a digital subscription would make a lot of sense for me.
Well, listen, I'm just thankful that I grew up watching the wrestling era as I did. I'm sure you feel the same way. And I have nothing but gratitude for the athletes who put their bodies on the line to entertain us in this unique way that they do. And I'm also very grateful for your friendship the last couple of years, getting to know you and everybody over there at Arcadia Vanguard. I'm really chums with about half of y'all over there. It's amazing. So I just want to say thank you for accepting me into your world, and thanks for entering mine. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to have you on the show.
As always, it's been quite a pleasure to shoot the breeze and grill, as it were.
Yes. Well, what's better than grill? It's summertime, And here I am on the Mediterranean diet. There will be no hot dogs. There will be no steaks for me. I've just lost somewhere around 20 pounds just because I wanted to feel better.
Sure.
I was pushing the old A1C and all that stuff.
Yep.
So I figured, let me get my diet under control. And it's paid off. If you look at me now, you can see that I've lost a lot of weight.
Sure.
And I feel good. And at my age, any day that I feel decent, I don't have aches and pains, I'm happy. So thanks, Bob, 10 minutes from now for chiming in there. But no, seriously, I consider myself very lucky at my advanced age to be as healthy as I am.
Yeah. And boy, if there's ever an underrated cuisine, it would be Mediterranean/Greek.
Yeah, no kidding.
Anytime I can get souvlaki or what have you, I'm there.
Well, we have a favorite pizzeria we go to. And on Saturdays, I don't order pizza. I order rigatoni primavera, which, the primavera vegetables is a very tasty thing. And this way I can still have an Italian delicacy and not really spoil. And I'm counting the calories in my head and everything else. And it's worked like gangbusters. During the pandemic, when I was sitting at home for 14 months, we were all sitting at home. I lost 45 pounds because I just refused to bring crap food in the house. That's basically all it was. That's all it was. So I just, my old age, I don't want to see bad numbers on my medicals and all that stuff. So I got them under control now. So I'm happy. Maybe I'll be here another year to do the show, hopefully, if things continue to go well,
Yeah, you'll be here for many, many minutes. I don't doubt it.
I hope I am because you know what? I don't know if you know this about me. I went to college to try to be a radio guy. Never had the opportunity to do it. And the fact that I'm doing this stuff now, it feels like making up for lost time. And when I talk to someone like you of a similar era, I don't feel my age. I feel like I'm still 29 working for PWI. And it's a good feeling, because it all comes flooding back and people like you jog my memory. So thank you for coming on my meager little show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back. And, anytime.
Don't say that, or you're going to have your own segment. That's going to work. All right, folks, from the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, it is the one and only Lou Kipilman. Thank you. And, by the way, your work has been stellar lately. And I just want to give you props for that. I guessed it on one of the Stick to Wrestling episodes, and I was there, and I know how it sounded on the back end, and you did a wonderful job on that show. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. Personally, I just pride myself on trying to get as clean a product as I can. If people can listen and not notice or wince, I've done my job.
Yeah, I can't say it better than that. Folks, it's Lou Kipilman. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Attention, Gen Xers. If you'd like to explore the era that appeals to you, look no further than GenerationXWire.com. The generation who grew up with elite in entertainment, music, movies, TV, books, pro wrestling, and more finally has a one-stop destination for all their Gen X needs. From Aerosmith to Batman to the Killer Bees to the Twilight Zone, there's something for everybody at GenerationXWire.com. You won't find a more eclectic mix of pop culture content than at the leading website that specializes in the greatest generation, GenerationXWire.com. Check it out today. Such a blast having Lou Kipilman back with us. Just a tremendous guy, a fountain of information, a real wrestling buff, and obviously a huge asset to Arcadian Vanguard with his production and sound work and a lot of other things too. Yeah, I can actually hear his voice on the John McAdam podcast too, at the beginning and the end, I believe. So thank you, Lou. You're the best. And thank you all for listening out there. I just read something. A veteran broadcaster said, "Don't thank anybody." What? Seriously, he said, "Don't thank anybody. I mean, don't say hello and thanks for being back, and don't they thank you." Well, I want to thank everybody for listening each and every episode. It really means a lot. I mean, it's not the old school radio days now. It's podcasting's a more personal thing, I think, and I'm going to continue to thank you all for listening, no matter what. So there you go. So we have another one in the books. Like I said, we've done a whole batch of shows pre-planning for my Operation Ow. And everything's going to be fine. You're going to get a new show every Friday, come hook or by crook. No question about it, which I'm very happy about. We've got batches of shows waiting for you, and we hope you enjoy them all. Write to us, outdatedwrestling@gmail.com. And by the way, if you have something show-related that I could possibly read, use the Gmail address, not Facebook. All right? outdatedwrestling@gmail.com, and perhaps I will read your queries or comments on the air. On the air is not the right thing to say either. Podcasts on the air, radio is in the airwaves, but it's our podcast. Beats me. Our website, outdatedwrestlinghour.buzzsprout.com, where for the flick of a button, you can listen to every single one of the shows we've ever put together, all on that one site. You can also learn about the Outdated Wrestling Hour fan club, or for a nominal fee, just a couple of bucks a month. I should say $3. You can help perpetuate the ongoing adventures for not only this, but the Outdated Entertainment Hour podcast. We have a new one in the works there too, and we really hope you listen to it. That one is monthly for now. I am going to accelerate to bi-weekly with the Outdated Entertainment Hour as soon as my health calls for it. I love doing that show. The response has been beyond my wildest imagination, so I'm going to keep up with that. You're going to get more shows, hopefully in the second half of this year. Find me on Facebook. I'm the only Bob Smith singing with BB King. I'm on every other social media app you can think of. It's just Bob Smith or outdated_Bob. Underscore is a thing, not a word. We're a member of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Thank you, Ray Russell, for all the work you do. Both of my podcasts are productions of what I'm laughingly referring to as Bob Smith Podcasts. I used to have a record label I called Bahumba. Bahumba was a made-up word that I got from Tony Rosado, the classic SCTV comedian. I just loved the word. It made no sense. I thought it was funny, so I named my record label Bahumba. That's another story for a different kind of podcast anyway. But no, we're on most of the social media, the threads, the Facebooks. I can't even think right now. X, Twitter, it used to be called. All of them. All of them. There's another one. Blue Sky. So you can find me there too. I think that's it for now. Thank you so much, Lou Kipilman. It's always a blast. Thank you, Joe Puccio. Thank you all. And as we segue into summer here, once again, we quote the legendary former Beatle Ringo Starr. Well, I don't know if he's former. He'll always be a Beatle in everybody's hearts, right? Ringo Starr, the Beatle, says, "Peace and love, brothers and sisters. Peace and love."